Hi, I'm Dimitri Kusnezov.
And you can just look at me. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And go ahead.
Dimitri Kuznetsov, Undersecretary for Science and Technology at the Department for Homeland Security.
Okay, great. And can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing at the Arctic Encounter?
So, the role of science and technology at DHS is to try and meet the operational needs of all the different parts of DHS, including first responders and emergency managers, and meet their needs today, but also look ahead and try and look beyond horizon and understand, are we in a good place? Are we prepared for things that are coming? And I think about preparedness in a way that frames what I do. I look at the world and I see it changing around us in very remarkable ways that certainly give me the sense that our understanding from yesterday may not be reflective on what we have to do tomorrow. I think about that with respect to first responders and extreme weather. Uh, the frequency of hearing, that's never happened before. And the frequency of these rare events. And so as I look at Alaska, what I like about the Arctic, what I like about Alaska, is you don't have to quibble about whether you believe predictions or codes or models or this or that. You just come here and see change is happening. It's impacting people, it's impacting lives and lifestyles and communities. And so you don't have to speculate. When I was up in Utqiagvik last summer, there was sun days because it was 70 degrees. There's no sea ice to be seen. It's in the horizon maybe, but it leads to more erosion. The coastal issues are different than they were before. It impacts the species, the invasive species of plants that come in, things that burn better. It impacts wildfires, and so there is this swirl of stuff in the world changing around us, and what I'm trying to understand is what should DHS have as a footprint here. And again, because the change is already happening, you don't have to speculate for things that might come. Things are already happening. What should we be doing about it? What should we be thinking? And so part of coming here is trying to understand the landscape. What is already going on? How do people think about it? What are the priorities from people, living under these conditions? We hear about fish, we hear about caribou, we hear many of these things. And I look for intersections between DHS missions and kind of what is the demand signal, what actually would be useful. We launched, one of the reasons for coming up is we launched a new Arctic Domain Awareness Center at the University of Alaska in Anchorage, which is a center of excellence. It's $46 million that we're putting into it over the next decade. We have kind of decadal horizons because in trying to do anything, it can't get done in a project or a task or something. It has to be longer term, it has to be engaged. And as part of the framing of that center, we engaged a lot of our operational parts. We asked for making sure we capture Indigenous knowledge, voices of communities. It's meant to be an umbrella activity. It's not that we're funding faculty to do research and write papers. We're not the NSF. Writing papers is great for us. We're operational, and the question is, we need to do things. So we can admire problems, but at the end of the day, for me, it's so what? What do you do? What are you going to do? And the goal of the center is to be a hub for that. It is a place where we can push resources to do things. It is a place for communities to plug in and say, I'm worried about that, and they should be thinking about that and how it plugs into the rest of government or into other institutions or companies or whatever it is. It's meant to be a hub in that capacity. And so we launched that earlier this week, which was nice, and now we're trying to give it legs. advertise the fact that it exists, get people comfortable with going to talk to them. But anyway, last year when I was here, we were framing how do we think about doing anything? Should we be thinking about Alaska? Should we think about the Arctic? And this year it's the launching of the center, and then with next year, we'll see how things go. My tenure is tied to the election, so we'll see how things go in many ways. I hope to be back, but you never know. It's the Arctic as well is interesting because it ties. It's very transnational. We talk to the Canadians, we talk to the Norwegians about many of the coastal and sea issues and nanoplastics and microplastics and the warming trends and the migration trends and wildfires and the commonality there that cross-cuts nations, that cross-cuts cultures is one of those things that is on my mind as we think of who do you partner with to do something that is meaningful. So that's the 10-minute answer to your 5-second question. But probably from there you can find something that's useful.
Well, thank you. I just had one question. What are some of the things that you heard from Indigenous people that are here this week? What are some of the things that you've got a chance to interact with folks? What are some of the things they're talking about?
Well, there are a number of key threads. Aside from the impacts that everyone is feeling in one way or another. No salmon in the Yukon. Subsistence doesn't work now in those communities. It's fish. It's migration of caribou that we heard. I learned that putting a road somewhere impacts herd migrations because the caribou don't like to cross roads. That I got to tell you is not on the radar when I sit in Washington, and you don't learn about the world and the impacts and the considerations without talking with people. But I think the main messages that I took away are engage the youth. You don't talk to enough people. As a broad statement, when things are done, when policies are decided, when actions are taken, there isn't any engagement. There isn't a voice of the communities impacted. That you should draw in the kids, you should draw in the youth in some way. You should engage communities. I heard also don't engage the corporations as the only voice. I heard democratically elected tribal governments and leaders are important voices to have. And so there are collections of these, which is, I understand kind of the science impacts, but it's the social fabric that I think I take away with more impact to me on how to think. I think the challenge here with 229 recognized tribes in Alaska, if I remember the number correctly, is and many different corporations and overlays. As I've learned from Julie Kitka and others, there are many voices, many opinions, many points of view, and no one-stop shopping for understanding any of these. And finding the right fabric of communication to understand and test ideas or get ideas is part of something we have to do. And so part of coming out here and talking with people is listening and trying to understand, who do we engage to talk about things, and that's not easy. This is a very complicated environment with thousands of years of history, and it, I think globally unique in that sense. It's not that there are other places you can go to and have the same kind of mix of history and culture and its richness, and so it takes special care, I have to say, and so it's nice being up here talking with people and just trying to learn.